When my son turned 5, he began talking about a little boy named Oliver who, according to him, lived in the empty corner of his bedroom. At first, my wife and I smiled every time he mentioned him. Imaginary friends are common at that age, and we assumed Oliver was simply the product of an active imagination. Our son would set an extra place at the table during pretend tea parties, leave space beside him on the couch while watching cartoons, and occasionally pause in the middle of a conversation as if listening to someone we couldn't see. Nothing about it seemed unusual until Oliver started telling him things before they happened. The first incident was so ordinary that we barely noticed. One morning my son insisted I bring an umbrella to work even though the weather forecast predicted clear skies all day. He confidently explained that Oliver had said it would rain after lunch. I laughed, left the umbrella at home, and spent the afternoon completely soaked after an unexpected storm rolled through the city. We joked about Oliver having better forecasting skills than the weather service. A week later, my son refused to let me take my usual route to his preschool. He became strangely upset and begged me to use a different street because Oliver said there would be too many loud noises on the normal road. His reaction was so intense that I eventually gave in just to calm him. Later that morning I learned that a serious traffic accident had shut down the exact intersection we normally crossed. That coincidence was harder to ignore. Over the following months, similar moments kept happening. Sometimes the predictions were small. Oliver would say the neighbor's dog would escape its yard, and an hour later we'd see people chasing it through the neighborhood. Other times they were oddly specific. My son once announced that Grandma shouldn't climb the old ladder in her garage because Oliver said one of the steps was broken. When my father checked it later that afternoon, he discovered a cracked rung that could have easily caused a dangerous fall. Each correct prediction chipped away at my skepticism. Still, I searched for logical explanations. Maybe children notice details adults overlooked. Perhaps my son subconsciously recognized patterns that happened to prove accurate. I refused to jump to supernatural conclusions simply because several unusual coincidences had occurred close together. Then came the prediction that changed everything. One Saturday evening my son quietly walked into the kitchen while I was making dinner. Oliver says Daddy shouldn't go to the lake tomorrow. I smiled. We've been planning that fishing trip for weeks. He shook his head. He says the water will be angry. His words unsettled me more than I wanted to admit. The next morning I canceled the trip, inventing an excuse about feeling tired. My friends teased me for backing out at the last minute. That afternoon, a powerful storm swept across the lake with almost no warning. Several boats capsized after being caught in unexpectedly strong winds. Thankfully everyone survived, but the news coverage showed rescue crews working for hours. That was the first time I genuinely felt afraid, not of my son, of not understanding what was happening. My wife suggested speaking with a child psychologist, not because she believed anything paranormal was taking place, but because she wanted to ensure our son wasn't experiencing anxiety or confusion that expressed itself through Oliver. The psychologist spent several sessions with him. Afterwards she told us something surprising. Our son appeared emotionally healthy, socially engaged, and fully aware that most people couldn't see or hear Oliver. He wasn't distressed by the friendship. In fact, talking about Oliver made him feel safe. If the imaginary friend isn't causing fear or preventing normal development, she explained, there's often no reason to force children to give them up. Life continued. The predictions became less frequent but somehow more meaningful. Then, one evening shortly before his 6th birthday, my son sat beside me on the porch watching the sunset. He seemed quieter than usual. After several minutes he spoke softly. Oliver says he has to leave soon. I asked why. He says I won't need him anymore. I wasn't sure how to respond. Over the next few weeks, Oliver came up less and less in conversation. My son played with other children more often, became increasingly independent, and gradually stopped mentioning his invisible companion altogether. Eventually I realized months had passed without hearing the name. Curious, I finally asked about him. My son smiled as though remembering an old classmate. He said goodbye. Did he tell you where he was going? No, he answered. He just said I know enough now. Years passed. My son grew into a thoughtful, compassionate teenager with no unusual claims about seeing invisible friends or predicting future events. His childhood stories became little more than family memories we occasionally laughed about during holidays. One afternoon while helping me organize boxes in the attic, we discovered an old drawing he had made when he was 5. It showed himself holding hands with another little boy beneath a large oak tree. above the picture, written in uneven childhood handwriting, were the words, "Oliver says people don't always get warnings. So when they do, they should listen." My son stared at the drawing for a long moment. "I don't remember writing that," he admitted. Neither of us said much after that. To this day, I still don't know whether Oliver was nothing more than an extraordinary childhood imagination connected to remarkable coincidences or something I will never fully understand. I've stopped trying to explain every mystery with certainty because some experiences refuse to fit neatly into ordinary explanations. What I do know is that during one brief chapter of our lives, a little boy spoke with absolute confidence about tomorrow, and tomorrow kept arriving exactly the way he said it would. Whether the voice belonged to imagination, intuition, or something beyond either, it left behind one lasting lesson that I still carry with me whenever life presents an unexpected warning. Sometimes the wisest decision is simply to pay attention, even when you can't explain why.